Article 100 of the National Electrical Code defines a qualified person as someone who possesses the skills, knowledge, experience, training, and authorization necessary to perform electrical work safely. Only qualified persons should work on or near energized electrical equipment. Article 517 addresses outdoor temporary structures, covering the electrical requirements for temporary structures used for gatherings or events. Specifically, Section 517.13c states that generators and electrical circuits in temporary structures must be installed and operated by qualified persons in accordance with Article 445. Article 445 covers the requirements for the installation and operation of generators. Section 445.18 states that generators must be connected to the electrical system using a transfer switch or other means to prevent the transfer of power from the generator back into the utility grid. Section 445.20 states that generators must be grounded in accordance with Article 250. While the term certified electrician is commonly used, the NEC does not explicitly require electrical personnel to be certified. However, the following individuals are considered qualified persons: firstly, licensed electricians; secondly, persons with a journeyman electrician's license; thirdly, persons with a valid electrical permit; and fourthly, persons who have received training on the specific electrical equipment being used. Event organizers are responsible for ensuring that all electrical work at their events is performed by qualified persons. This includes 1. Hiring qualified personnel to install and operate generators, 2. Ensuring that all electrical equipment is grounded properly, and 3. Obtaining the necessary permits and inspections. Failure to comply with NEC requirements can result in safety hazards and potential electrical accidents, fines and penalties, and refusal of permits for future events. While it is true that certain electrical tasks require special qualifications, the NEC does not mandate that all personnel involved in temporary venue electrical work be certified electricians. However, event organizers are responsible for ensuring that all electrical work is performed safely by qualified persons. By adhering to the requirements outlined in the NEC, organizers can help protect their guests and ensure a safe and successful event. It's crucial to understand the NEC definitions and requirements related to temporary power setups, especially when using generators. Firstly, let's break down the concept of a qualified person. The NEC doesn't specifically demand that everyone working with electrical equipment be a certified or licensed electrician. Instead, it focuses on whether the individual has the necessary skills, knowledge, training, and authorization to perform the task safely. This means someone could be qualified through on-the-job experience, specific training programs, or by holding credentials like a journeyman electrician's license or a valid electrical permit. Secondly, consider temporary structures. Article 517 addresses the electrical installations for temporary structures like tents or outdoor venues used for events. These structures have specific electrical requirements to ensure safety, and Section 517.13c highlights the importance of qualified personnel handling generators and electrical circuits within these structures. This means anyone involved in setting up, operating, or maintaining generators needs to be competent in electrical safety practices. Thirdly, generators are a key component of temporary power systems, and Article 445 of the NEC covers their installation and operation. This article emphasizes several critical safety aspects. This includes Section 445.18, which requires that generators be connected to the electrical system using a transfer switch or similar device. This prevents backfeed, which is when power from the generator flows back into the utility grid, creating a dangerous situation for utility workers. Furthermore, Section 445.20 mandates that generators be properly grounded according to Article 250. Grounding provides a path for fault current to flow, helping to trip circuit breakers or fuses and prevent electrical shock hazards. Let's clarify some key points. While the NEC does not explicitly require certification for all electrical tasks, it places the responsibility on event organizers to ensure that all electrical work is performed by qualified individuals. This may involve hiring licensed electricians for complex installations, but for simpler tasks, individuals with appropriate training and experience might suffice. The key is to assess the complexity of the electrical work and ensure that the personnel involved have the necessary competence. Compliance with the NEC is crucial for ensuring safety and avoiding potential problems. Failure to adhere to these regulations can lead to several negative consequences, including safety hazards like electrical shocks or fires, fines and penalties from regulatory authorities, and difficulty obtaining permits for future events. To ensure compliance, event organizers should take several steps. Firstly, hire qualified personnel to handle all electrical work, including generator installation and operation. Secondly, ensure that all electrical equipment is properly grounded and inspected. Thirdly, obtain the necessary permits and inspections from local authorities. The building inspector mentioning Utah state law aligns with the broader NEC requirements. States and local jurisdictions often adopt and enforce the NEC, sometimes with additional local amendments. This means that the building inspector's statement is likely based on the local interpretation and enforcement of the NEC provisions related to qualified persons and safe electrical practices for temporary venues. Consider the implications of these requirements for different scenarios. If you're setting up a small event with minimal electrical needs, like a few lights and a sound system, you might be able to use a portable generator and extension cords. However, even in this simple scenario, it's crucial to ensure that the generator is properly grounded, the cords are in good condition, and the connections are secure. For larger events with more complex electrical demands, it's essential to hire a qualified electrician to design and install the electrical system. This includes determining the appropriate generator size, installing distribution panels, running wiring, and ensuring that all equipment is properly grounded and protected. Remember that the term qualified person is not just about having a piece of paper or a license. It's about having the knowledge, skills, and experience to perform the electrical work safely. This means understanding electrical codes, safety procedures, and the specific equipment being used. Always prioritize safety when working with electricity. Electrical accidents can be serious or even fatal, so it's essential to take precautions and follow all applicable codes and regulations. This includes wearing appropriate personal protective equipment, such as gloves and safety glasses, and using properly insulated tools. Also, never work on energized electrical equipment unless you are properly trained and authorized to do so. In conclusion, while the NEC does not mandate that everyone working with temporary event power be a certified electrician, it does require that all electrical work be performed by qualified persons. Event organizers are responsible for ensuring that this requirement is met to protect the safety of their guests and avoid potential penalties. By understanding the NEC requirements and taking appropriate precautions, you can help ensure a safe and successful event. Let's further elaborate on specific aspects of generator usage in temporary venues and how they relate to the NEC. We'll focus on grounding, bonding, overcurrent protection, and safe wiring practices. Grounding is a critical safety measure for generators. The NEC requires that generators be grounded in accordance with Article 250. This involves connecting the generator's frame to a grounding electrode, such as a ground rod or a building's grounding system. The purpose of grounding is to provide a low impedance path for fault current to flow back to the source, which helps to trip circuit breakers or fuses and prevent electrical shock hazards. In a typical portable generator setup, grounding is achieved by connecting a grounding electrode conductor from the generator's grounding terminal to a ground rod driven into the earth. The size of the grounding electrode conductor depends on the generator's output capacity, as specified in NEC Table 250.66. Bonding refers to connecting all metal parts of the electrical system together to create an electrically continuous path. This includes the generator frame, metal enclosures, and metal conduit. Bonding helps to ensure that all metal parts are at the same electrical potential, which reduces the risk of electrical shock. The NEC requires that bonding be performed in accordance with Article 250, Part 5. In a generator setup, bonding is typically achieved by connecting a bonding jumper from the generator's grounding terminal to the metal frame. Overcurrent protection is essential for protecting electrical equipment from damage caused by excessive current flow. The NEC requires that generators be protected by overcurrent devices such as circuit breakers or fuses, in accordance with Article 445. Overcurrent devices are designed to trip or blow when the current exceeds a certain level, which interrupts the flow of electricity and prevents damage to the equipment. The size of the overcurrent devices depends on the generator's output capacity and the ampacity of the conductors being protected. Safe wiring practices are crucial for preventing electrical hazards. The NEC requires that all wiring be installed in accordance with Article 300. This includes using approved wiring methods, such as conduit or cable, and ensuring that all connections are properly made and secured. When running wiring for temporary events, it's important to use flexible cords or cables that are rated for outdoor use. These cords and cables are designed to withstand the rigors of outdoor environments such as exposure to sunlight, moisture, and abrasion. It's also important to avoid overloading circuits, which can cause the wires to overheat and potentially start a fire. The NEC specifies the maximum allowable ampacity for different sizes of conductors in Table 310.16. When determining the appropriate size of conductors for a temporary event, it's important to consider the total load that will be connected to the circuit. This includes the power consumption of all lights, sound equipment, and other electrical devices. It's also important to factor in any potential future expansion of the electrical system. In addition to the NEC requirements, there may be local codes and regulations that apply to temporary event power. It's important to check with the local authorities to determine what specific requirements are in place. This may include obtaining permits, inspections, and other approvals. Remember that electrical work can be dangerous, so it's important to take precautions and follow all applicable codes and regulations. If you are not qualified to perform electrical work, it's best to hire a licensed electrician. Here are some additional tips for safe generator operation. Firstly, always read and follow the manufacturer's instructions. Secondly, never operate a generator indoors or in an enclosed space, as this can lead to carbon monoxide poisoning. Thirdly, keep the generator away from flammable materials. Fourthly, refuel the generator only when it is cool and turned off. Fifthly, inspect the generator regularly for any signs of damage or wear. Sixthly, have the generator serviced by a qualified technician on a regular basis. Let's delve deeper into the practical considerations of implementing these NEC requirements in real-world temporary event scenarios. Imagine setting up a concert in a park. You'll need power for the stage lighting, sound system, vendor booths, and potentially even food trucks. A generator is the most likely power source, so let's examine how the NEC guidelines apply. Firstly, assessing the load requirements is crucial. Calculate the total power demand of all equipment that will be connected to the generator. This includes the wattage of each light, amplifier, food truck appliance, and any other electrical device. Add up all the individual wattages to determine the total power required. Remember to account for any potential surge loads, which are temporary spikes in power demand when equipment is first turned on. Secondly, selecting the right generator is important. Choose a generator that can handle the total power demand with some headroom. It's generally recommended to select a generator that is at least 20% larger than the calculated load to accommodate surge loads and ensure reliable operation. Consider the generator's voltage and amperage ratings to ensure they are compatible with the equipment that will be connected. Thirdly, grounding the generator is essential. As previously discussed, the NEC requires that generators be grounded in accordance with Article 250. This involves connecting the generator's frame to a grounding electrode, such as a ground rod. Drive a ground rod into the earth near the generator and connect it to the generator's grounding terminal using a grounding electrode conductor of the appropriate size. Fourthly, wiring and distribution is important. Use appropriately sized and rated wiring to connect the generator to the various pieces of equipment. The NEC provides tables that specify the allowable ampacity of different sizes of conductors. Ensure that all wiring is protected by overcurrent devices, such as circuit breakers or fuses. Use distribution panels to divide the power into multiple circuits and provide individual overcurrent protection for each circuit. Fifthly, qualified personnel are needed. Engage qualified personnel to handle the electrical setup. This may involve hiring a licensed electrician or using trained technicians with experience in temporary power systems. Ensure that the personnel are familiar with the NEC requirements and have the necessary skills and knowledge to perform the work safely. Sixthly, inspections and permits are to be taken care of. Contact the local authorities to determine the permit requirements for temporary event power. Obtain the necessary permits and schedule inspections to ensure that the electrical setup complies with all applicable codes and regulations. Seventhly, safety precautions must be maintained. Implement safety precautions to prevent electrical hazards. This includes using ground fault circuit interrupters, GFCIs, to protect against electrical shock, providing clear signage to warn people of potential hazards, and keeping the area around the generator clear of obstructions. Remember that these are just general guidelines, and the specific requirements may vary depending on the location and the nature of the event. Always consult with qualified personnel and the local authorities to ensure that the electrical setup is safe and compliant. Consider a different scenario, a film shoot in a remote location. The electrical demands might be different, but the principles remain the same. You'll need power for cameras, lighting, sound equipment, and possibly even trailers and other support vehicles. Again, a generator is the most likely power source, so let's examine how the NEC guidelines apply in this context. The location will impact your requirements. The remoteness of the location may present challenges in terms of accessing qualified personnel and obtaining permits. Plan ahead and make sure you have the resources you need to comply with the NEC requirements. The load calculation should be done again. Calculate the total power demand of all equipment that will be connected to the generator, including any potential surge loads. Given the sensitive nature of film equipment, it's important to ensure that the generator provides clean, stable power. Consider using a generator with voltage regulation and harmonic distortion control to minimize the risk of damaging sensitive equipment. The grounding is still essential, but the method might change. Ground the generator in accordance with Article 250 of the NEC. Given the remote location, you may need to use a ground rod as the grounding electrode. Ensure that the ground rod is driven deep enough into the earth to provide a good connection. Wiring and distribution need to be handled safely again. Use appropriately sized and rated wiring to connect the generator to the various pieces of equipment. The wiring should be protected by overcurrent devices, such as circuit breakers or fuses. Use distribution panels to divide the power into multiple circuits and provide individual overcurrent protection for each circuit. The qualified personnel might be different but necessary. Engage qualified personnel to handle the electrical setup. This may involve hiring a licensed electrician or using trained technicians with experience in film production electrical systems. Ensure that the personnel are familiar with the NEC requirements and have the necessary skills and knowledge to perform the work safely. Also obtain inspections and permits as required. Contact the local authorities to determine the permit requirements for temporary event power. Obtain the necessary permits and schedule inspections to ensure that the electrical setup complies with all applicable codes and regulations. And maintain safety precautions. Implement safety precautions to prevent electrical hazards. This includes using GFCIs to protect against electrical shock, providing clear signage to warn people of potential hazards, and keeping the area around the generator clear of obstructions. In both scenarios, the key is to prioritize safety, comply with the NEC requirements, and engage qualified personnel to handle the electrical setup. By following these guidelines, you can help ensure a safe and successful event or film shoot. One more aspect to address is the use of extension cords and power strips in temporary event setups. While these devices can be convenient, it's important to use them safely and in compliance with the NEC. Firstly, use extension cords that are rated for outdoor use. These cords are designed to withstand the rigors of outdoor environments, such as exposure to sunlight, moisture, and abrasion. They are also typically heavier gauge than indoor extension cords, which means they can handle more current. Secondly, avoid overloading extension cords and power strips. Each extension cord and power strip has a maximum current rating. Do not exceed this rating, as this can cause the cord or power strip to overheat and potentially start a fire. To determine the total current being drawn by the devices connected to the cord or power strip, add up the amperage ratings of each device. The total amperage should not exceed the cord or power strip's rating. Thirdly, inspect extension cords and power strips regularly for damage. Check for frayed or cracked insulation, loose connections, and other signs of wear. Replace any damaged cords or power strips immediately. Fourthly, use power strips with built-in overcurrent protection. These power strips have a circuit breaker that will trip if the current exceeds a certain level. This can help to protect the devices connected to the power strip from damage caused by overcurrent. Fifthly, avoid daisy chaining extension cords and power strips. Daisy chaining is when you plug one extension cord into another, or one power strip into another. This can create a fire hazard, as the cords and power strips may not be able to handle the combined current. Sixthly, do not run extension cords across walkways or areas where they could be tripped over. This can create a tripping hazard and potentially damage the cords. If you must run extension cords across walkways, use cord covers to protect the cords and prevent tripping. Seventhly, never bury extension cords or run them through walls or ceilings. This can create a fire hazard, as the cords may overheat if they are not properly ventilated. Finally, consider using temporary power distribution boxes. These boxes are designed to provide safe and reliable power distribution for temporary events. They typically have multiple outlets, overcurrent protection, and GFCI protection. They are also designed to be weather resistant and durable. By following these guidelines, you can help ensure that extension cords and power strips are used safely in temporary event setups. Remember to always prioritize safety and comply with the NEC requirements. Always refer to the specific articles and sections of the NEC for detailed requirements and guidance. Consulting with a qualified electrical professional is always recommended for complex or critical electrical installations.